By the final years of the Second World War, Britain faced a problem that threatened its soldiers, its strategy, and its survival. Its tanks simply weren't good enough. While Germany fielded deadly Panthers and Tigers, Britain's armored units often relied on machines that were too slow, too undergunned, and too fragile for the brutal demands of modern armored warfare. But then, in late 1944, a new shape emerged across the European battlefield. Sleek, compact, fast, deadly. The A-34 Comet, a tank designed not out of ambition, but out of desperation. A machine that finally answered the question Britain had been struggling with since 1939. What should a modern British tank actually be? This is the story of how the Comet, quietly, efficiently, and almost too late, fixed Britain's tank problem. A story of failures, hard lessons, battlefield realities, and one of the most underestimated tanks of the 20th century. 145 to 520, Britain's tank problem in World War II. Narrator: to understand why the Comet mattered, we must travel back to the very beginning, to a British Army entering World War II with a deeply broken tank doctrine. For years, Britain divided its tanks into two categories: infantry tanks, heavily armored but slow, Matilda II, Churchill; cruiser tanks, fast but lightly armored, Cruiser Mark I through 6, Crusader, Cromwell. This idea worked on paper. In practice, it was a disaster. Clip of burning cruisers in North Africa. Cruiser tanks were designed to be speed demons, the cavalry of the future, but they were built with thin armor and weak guns. Their job? Dash behind enemy lines and exploit breakthroughs. Reality? They had to fight German panzers head-on, and against the long-barreled 50mm and later the deadly 75mm KWK-40, British cruisers didn't stand a chance. At the same time, infantry tanks were so slow they often arrived late or not at all. The heart of the problem was simple. Britain designed tanks based on theory, not on what their soldiers needed to survive. 520 to 910. Failed solutions, a parade of missteps. Narrator: before the Comet, Britain cycled through a long list of tanks, each meant to fix the last one, each failing in its own way. Covenanter, a cooling disaster. So unreliable it was never allowed overseas. Its engine overheated simply driving around England. Crusader, fast but fragile. A beautiful design, crippled by mechanical failures and thin armor. In North Africa, they burned by the hundreds. Cavalier and Centaur, interim tanks nobody wanted, underpowered and quickly outdated. Fine for training, useless for breakthroughs. Cromwell, finally something promising. A fast, well-built tank with a powerful Rolls-Royce meter engine. The Cromwell could carry the 75mm, adequate against Panzer IVs, but hopeless against Panthers and Tigers. Britain had come close, but close wasn't good enough. By 1943, commanders knew a new tank was needed, one that combined Cromwell's mobility with real firepower. 910 to 1340. A new philosophy. Lessons from North Africa and Normandy. Narrator: the turning point came in 1942-43 as the fighting in the desert and later in Normandy exposed the same pattern. German tanks were better armed. German tanks engaged at longer ranges. German tanks survived British guns, but not the other way around. The British Army realized something revolutionary. A tank couldn't simply be fast or armored. It had to be balanced. And that balance required one critical ingredient: a gun capable of killing Panthers and Tigers. Enter the 17-pounder, one of the most powerful Allied anti-tank guns of the war. It pierced the armor of German heavy tanks at combat ranges, and with APDS, it threatened Tigers as well. But the Firefly was a stopgap, a band-aid solution waiting to be replaced. Britain needed its own tank, built from the ground up, with Firefly-level firepower and Cromwell-level mobility. That vision became the A-34 Comet. 1340 to 1815, designing the comet. How Britain got it right. Narrator, work began in 1943. This time, British engineers approached the problem differently. Instead of starting from scratch, they refined the Cromwell, a proven design, and upgraded every weakness. 1. The gun, 77mm HV. The Comet's most important feature, based on the 17-pounder but redesigned for a smaller turret. It fired powerful APCBC rounds, deadly APDS rounds, and had better accuracy and recoil control. It could penetrate the Panther's frontal armor at combat ranges, and with APDS, it threatened Tigers as well. 2. The armor, up to 101mm on the turret, sloped, compact, and better arranged than previous cruisers, strong enough to survive most German AT guns at medium range. 3. The engine, Rolls-Royce meter, V12, 600 horsepower, smooth, reliable. The same engine that made the Cromwell famous. The Comet could reach over 50 kilometers per hour, making it one of the fastest tanks of the war. 4. The profile, low, compact, hard to spot, and harder to hit. 5. Suspension improvements. A stronger Christie suspension, made for smoother ride, more stable firing, and better off-road performance. 6. Crew layouts and ergonomics. The Comet had excellent visibility, turret space, ammunition layout, and radio systems. These small improvements made a big difference under fire. For the first time since 1939, Britain had a tank that could truly stand toe-to-toe with Germany's best. 1815 to 2330. The Comet in combat. Western Europe, 1944 to 1945. Narrator. The Comet entered service in late 1944 with the 11th Armored Division. Though it arrived late in the war, its impact was immediate. Clip. Archival footage of comets moving across Germany. Troops praised its speed, reliability, optics, and especially its gun. It excelled in urban fighting, sweeping breakthroughs, long-range engagements, and quick flanking maneuvers. In Germany's final months, the Comet proved it could do something no previous British cruiser tank had reliably done: engage a German tank frontally and win. Battles like the crossing of the Rhine, the push to the Elbe, the race across northern Germany showed the Comet's strengths. It was fast enough to outmaneuver most German armor, powerful enough to punch through it, and reliable enough to keep moving when older British tanks would have broken down. Many British crews would later say, "The Comet was the tank we should have had in 1942. 2330 to 2700. How the Comet changed British tank doctrine. The Comet didn't just succeed on the battlefield. It forced Britain to rethink armored warfare entirely. 1. End of the split tank doctrine. No more infantry versus cruiser tanks. The Comet proved a single, balanced design could do both jobs. 2. New standards for gun power. The 77mm HV set the template for post-war guns. High velocity, compact, multi-purpose. 3. New priorities in design. Mobility and firepower were now equal to armor protection. The Comet struck a perfect balance, a principle that reshaped British tank development. 4. Tactical flexibility. Comet units could spearhead attacks, support infantry, counter German armor, exploit breakthroughs, all without needing multiple specialized tank types. The Comet simplified everything, and it prepared the British Army for its true post-war masterpiece. 2700 to 2900. The Comet's legacy, the road to the Centurion. Narrator. The Comet may not have the fame of the Tiger or the mythology of the Sherman, but it solved a problem far more important. It gave British tank crews something they had been begging for since the war began: a tank that could fight, survive, and win.